Alrighty, E75 highway. You're pretty much relegated to going town. I like playing the 9 line in E75. At least you're top tier. It's actually pretty safe from artillery and whatnot as well. A couple different places you can go, but basically anywhere along here, and then you can start to push up here depending on what your team is doing and what the enemy team is doing. You guys basically have similar comps for both sides. There are big urdies, so you do have to be aware of that. I like to drive over a building on your way out, but you don't have a whole lot of time because you want to start getting down that 9 line as soon as possible. You can also play this 0 line out here, but I feel like, especially as a top tier heavy on this map, like somebody needs to enter that 9 line. So that's what I usually do. Say, drive through this building. It's always good to drive through buildings on your way out. And then, again, the usual 30 to 60 seconds through the map. You want to look and see what your team is doing. You got about a third of your team headed south. About a third of your team is still in the base. You have a JT-88 crossing. This is not a good place for a JT-88. He is going to die a horrible, horrible death. This is also not a good place to play. It is very easy to get lit and shot up over here when you're just sitting out there in the open. See where this M4A1 going is potentially useful if you go there early, but it's also someplace where you can get pushed. So it looks like you're going back line. It looks like your IS-6 is taking this 9 line, which may or may not be okay, depending on what he does. It's just, you would be a much more powerful presence on that 9 line than you're going to be on the middle of the 0. So we see a couple of their heavies here, IS-6, IS. Presumably MacG will head over in this direction as well. There's Centurions out in the field, that's expected. So they have some guys on this line, but they haven't really breached this area yet. Which is why I like to sort of cut that avenue off. I don't like them to be able to get to this side, otherwise these guys here just end up getting flank shots. Getting shot in the flank.
It's a trap!
A little bit more of a snapshot than you need, but you can stay in that area. There's nothing like, see how you're gonna be reloaded soon? Like, you could very easily get set up for your next shot on the IS-6. You know that he already fired. Anything else that comes around that corner, you can angle your armor to. So there's no reason why you shouldn't get your next shot.
It's a trap!
Der ging nicht durch. Die haben uns eine Kette abgeschossen. Wir stecken fest.
And this is the same thing. You want to try to work this as quickly as you can. It's a little bit too much dancing for an IS-6.
Gegnerfahrzeug ausgeschaltet.
And then you've been lit pretty much this whole time. So what you can do is you can actually push in through over on this side a little bit. So they've got a bunch of guys right here. The problem with backing out over here is that you basically back out into an artillery lane. Like, ideally what you want is you want your platoon buddy to go all the way down there, and so that he can cover you. You really don't have a whole lot. Like, when you look at what your team is, your team's going to lose this field eventually. This M4A1 is gonna die next, and then you're gonna have base problems.
It's a trap!
That was good. And then just be careful about how you sort of poke out here with your side, again, because it is an arty lane. You need to be more worried about the arty than you are about the T-34 or the IS. T-28 Protoss sort of pushing through there, but that's not that big of a deal. You need to just start getting these guys off of this lane.
It's a trap!
You need to tell your buddy to stop taking your hands.
Gegnerfahrzeug ausgeschaltet.
And there's a little lane between these buildings that you can shoot.
It's a trap!
take your time. You could have aimed that one all the way in. He had already fired. And the same thing. You should already be backing out and aiming at him right now, because so you basically always want to have it so that, see how you're loaded now? The instant that you load, you want to be shooting. You want to be able to shoot that as soon as you're loaded. And so the problem is that you're not feeling any urgency right now. So you know that you already lost the field. You know that you're going to lose the base, because it's very easy to lose the base once you lose the field. You know that this guy in the middle is going to die, which means that everything over here is eventually going to die, and they're either going to put cap pressure on you. But you need to feel some urgency here. You need to get shot by this guy, even if that means getting shot and taking damage, and you need to kill him. Because there's still more tanks over here that you need to get rid of. And then what you should do is you should tell your buddy to go back, or at least to stop shooting you. One of the two. So you just need to be a little bit more bold here, either in getting intel or doing something. Something more than nothing.
It's a trap!
Wir haben sie nicht mal angekratzt. Eine unserer Ketten ist zerstört. Wir sitzen fest.
I really didn't feel like you needed to spend the kit there, but to each his own. Your buddy could still help with these guys over here more than he can help you over here. A lot of it is just knowing
It's a trap!
Der ging nicht durch.
the matchups. He doesn't have good matchups here. You should also switch to APCR if you're going to fight against the 4502B. You're not going to get good shots in the IS, really.
Der ging nicht durch.
It's a trap!
Anything else?
Kette wurde getroffen. Sie kann jeden Moment reißen.
Get the 40. You could back up here and get a shot in the 4502B. He's not really looking to shoot at your T-32 though.
Der ging voll durch ihre Panzerung.
This is an arty lane, so you got to be careful there. Luckily, they didn't put any cap pressure on. They just tried to drive back through here.
It's a trap!
Wir haben sie.
Still an arty lane. He's going to try to kill the T-32 next through this cross. This is also an arty lane, so you need to be careful about this. See, now is when you want your 430 to come and help you, right? So, well, he basically has two options. If he can solo that guy, that's fine. But really what you want to get together, because you've got a numbers advantage. There's only one tank over here. This JT-88 is not going to cap out or anything like that. He's not going to be able to push to help. He's not fast enough, so you want to have him over here helping you rather than create, a bunch of different 1v1s. You want to have a 3v1 over here.
Der ging voll durch ihre Panzerung.
It's a trap!
You switch to APCR, which is good. And it looks like your buddy's coming to help you. And then basically, when your buddy gets here, all you want to do is you want to push into the 4502B and be arty safe. Especially since two of their arty just fired, that's perfect. Perfect. Just push in. Just do it. Just do it. Just go. Just do it. You gotta do it. You've got a window here where there's only one arty that's going to be loaded. Just do it. Don't give them time for the JT-88 to get the cap. Don't give them time for the JT-88 to help out. Just do it. Why are you waiting? No need to wait. Don't be afraid. You can do it. Come on. I know it. I mean, it's honorable to let the artillery reload, but I don't think that it's good.
Wir sind bewegungsunfähig.
It's especially honorable to sit out in the open so that artillery gets a shot at you. So you basically waited long enough for your 3v1 to become an ambush, and then a 1v1, and then a 1v1. Which is, you want to definitely avoid that.
Wirkungstreffer.
And so you just want to get a shot on him. Just make sure that it's a good shot. Don't back up. Don't back up. Oh my god. That's one way to do it. There's a little bit of an area if you go over here just to the right where you can be already safe.
It's a trap!
You should have aimed that one. You're not getting any more already safe where you're at. I mean this is pretty much as bad of an already safe position as you can be in. You've been pretty lucky that they've missed. See, I mean, if you were gonna push in like this, anyways, this is what you should have done right off the bat. Oh my! If only you had a repair kit.
Los geht's.
There you go. Good job. And you're already safe. Woo woo. I don't know what their JT-88 was doing. Alright, if he wants to sit there, you just hang out and kill him. Oh my god, just kill him! Just kill him before he retreats! You're lucky that he didn't keep backing up there. But okay! Alright, that's fine. And then, so what you want to do is you just want to drop spot, and then I actually would prefer going down this side of this thing over here, and you basically want to get in the ditch, and then you don't want to come up over here, because over here there's no cover at all. You want to come up over by these buildings, or over on this side.
Die Steuerung reagiert nicht mehr. Wir haben die Kette repariert. Kette wieder funktionstüchtig. Los geht's.
So it looks like you're going back to your cap to prevent RD from capping. There hasn't really been any sign that RD has moved over in this area, judging from the artillery that were shooting at you when you're in this window right there. All three of them were shooting through that window, which means that all three of them were at that point on the K line. But they can drive over here. I mean, it is possible. You can execute through the field here.
It's a trap!
Gegnerisches Fahrzeug ausgeschaltet.
Oh, get safe. Get safe. And then I don't like driving through this field area just because
It's a trap!
Fahrzeug
it's a rather big and open area. So the S-51 took a hope shot. So then you have, you know, 30 seconds or so. I'm surprised that they separated so much. Really, at that point, all you need to do is just keep all three artillery together, and there's nothing you can do. He may or may not be on this side. Lol. At least you know where he's at. He knows that you're going to come from this side, though, because it's the only side that you can't come from. I don't think you're fast enough to actually catch up to him, though, if he decides to keep running. The S-51's kind of slow, but I don't think it's that slow. What I would have actually, you know, given the time, is I actually probably would have tried to cap instead. I don't think he's going to do that. But that's fine. So there were a couple of issues. The biggest issue was there's just a little bit too much nibbling over here when you should have been more assertive. So much of how aggressive you need to be is dependent upon what your team does. When you look at what your team did, right, sending a JT88 out here is just not a very smart move. We can probably look at the statistics and see that guy is probably not a very good player. But you know that you're going to lose the field. You know you don't have the numbers. You know you don't have the comp to win it. You know that these guys in the base are going to suffer just because this is not a very good place to be. What you want to be able to do is win through this south area. And you did have a number of artillery, and it seemed like your artillery was doing a decent job, at least when they were alive, of actually damaging things. So that's the good news. So the biggest problem, though, the place where you lost it was when you had a 3v1 against the 4502B. Right, it was a 3v1. You, a one-shot T-32, and your platoon mate, the Object 430, and you guys just straight camped. Their artillery even fired 2 blind shots, and they just said, you know what, we'll waste our reload. Fire 2 shots over here. So you know you've got a window to push him. There's only 1 artillery loaded, and there's only 1 tank, and that 1 tank has 1,000 health, and you've got 3 tanks. Sure, the T-32 probably wasn't going to be able to damage him, but you guys should have been able to straight bully. Instead, what happened, he ambushed you. 1v3, he ambushed you. That should be embarrassing. You should not get ambushed by 1 guy if you're 3. And so all you had to do when you guys were just sitting there camping was just straight push him, right? The JT-88 was going to take forever to get down there. You guys basically waited until the JT-88 got into a position to be relevant, which also coincidentally lit you guys and made it easier for you guys to get shot up by both the artillery and everyone else on the enemy team. And that's really where this game was lost, because all you had to do, right, there's 1 artillery that's still loaded, you've got 3 tanks, just push him and kill him. And then, you know, you guys can go back and deal with the JT-88, or send one person, you know, send the 430 to go kill the artillery while you deal with the JT-88. You know, any combination of things. But that right there, that was the bad decision. The camping. Just especially if they're your platoon mates, presumably they're on TeamSpeak or something like that. Just say, hey, let's do it. 2v1. Even if the T-32 wasn't there, 2v1. Just do it. Just do it. And I think that was pretty much where the game was lost. Alright, so if we look at the stats, not bad. Yeah, your team didn't do a whole lot there, but despite that, I mean, their team had a little bit more balanced effort, but they didn't really have anybody that gave a fantastic effort. Given your dispersion, this is sort of to be expected in terms of what the team output was. You didn't have very many people go city. You had a bunch of people camping in the base. That's not a very good dispersion for your team. And yet, despite all of that, I still felt like you probably should have won that. Just a little bit too much hesitation when you had an advantage, and that basically cost it. The JT-88 that they pushed in, it wasn't like that guy was some super awesome player, but he completely foiled your plans because you waited for him, because you did the honorable thing and allowed the artillery to reload and allowed this guy to get himself back into the game, and that basically cost it for you, unfortunately. But otherwise, GG. You did pretty well. Nice try. Alright, and for the next one, we'll look at Bavor. However you pronounce his name. Fjord game. And T-54 lightweight. Alrighty. You actually don't have a very good comp for the Northeast. I actually, like in a comp like this, in a fast tank like the T-54 lightweight, I wouldn't necessarily push up to this Northeast, depending on what your T-54 does, depending on what your other tanks, how your other tanks set up. You can still win that side, but you don't have a real good comp for it. So what you can do is start driving up here, and if you've got support to go, you can go with them. But if you don't, what you should do is you should loop over here, spot down this lane, and then just get out. And that'll at least give you some intel as far as what their team is doing. Always looking at your comp and at the other team's comp is important for different maps because it defines, in very general strokes, where people are going to go. And then again, as we've always said, the all-important 30 to 60 seconds into the game, look and see what your team is doing. Right, you sent about half of your team down to the south area, which isn't that great. You sent 2 guys over here. This is not a very good position. You're all here by yourself. You got a KV-13 that's coming over here, but he's going to camp over in this A6 area, most likely. So you're all by yourself. So this is not a good place for you to be. This is not a position that you want to be in. The RU-251 is down there, which is somewhat helpful, but the other 2 light tanks could still be up here, which would be too much for you to handle. And so, like, you're here ostensibly to spot. You can do exactly what you're doing from right here. I think it's about right here. Let's see, where is it? Yes, from right here, these bushes right here, you can do the exact same thing, and you can spot this entire area right up here, but you'll be significantly safer, and you'll have hard cover that you can go behind. So that's something to keep in mind. And then whenever you're on the one side of the map, especially on the weak side of the map, this is what I call the weak side because it's just you and a KV-13. I guess an ISU is out here. Right? This is the strong side because this is where most of your big ass tanks went. So that's something to keep an eye on. So whenever you're on the weak side, you always want to be in a go position so that if something pushes in here, you don't have to turn around to leave. You don't have to drive backwards to get out. Your front armor is pretty much as good as your back armor, so you might as well just be in a go position already to get out, because whenever you play the weak side, you never want to get caught out of position, because that's the easiest time to get caught out of position. Look, and we see about a third of their team or so over down in that area. I don't think pushing up here is that worthwhile, but you still have nobody spotting down this 6-7 line, which is someplace that you can go. You can even get shots down there if these guys camp over there too much. But like this T-54 that's right here, that's already too much for you and a KV-13 to handle, depending on how he plays it. And it looks like he's playing it flat. So my point is that you've been here now for about a minute and a half or so, and you've spotted nothing, you've shot at nothing, you've done nothing really. And so whenever you're sitting around for long periods of time, and then see what you're doing right now is you're waiting for this KV-13 to die, which I don't think you could save that KV-13, but the question is, what are you waiting for next? Because what is the T-54 going to do next? He's going to start driving down towards you, and you're either going to try to 1v1 the T-54 or you're not. And if you're not going to 1v1 him, you should have already left. This 1390 is pushing your ISU over here.
It's a trap!
All the way in best aim. T-54 is still going to be pushing in behind you, so that's something that you need to keep in mind. And again, so this area where the T-54 and I think it was the light tank, the T-49 went, this is not a good area to be in. I always say this when I play this map in pubs. From the west spawn has an advantage through the northeast here. The east spawn has an advantage through this center here because they get up underneath them. It's also an arty lane. It's very difficult if there's people behind them for people to get flanking fire on it. So that's the area that you have the best luck at.
It's a trap!
All the way in best aim. with the target cruise buggy. And you might as well just run away from the T-54 at this point and try to clean out the rest of this. You need to get to where your team is, and you need to tell your team that they need to return.
It's a trap!
And again, the whole idea is that if you're not going to face the T-54 head on, like if that's not what you want to do, and it certainly doesn't appear to be what you want to do, then just go someplace else. You're faster than him. Just use it. I still think it would have been a better use of your time to go over here with these to hook up with your guys and kill everything there, and then tell them to come back to the T-54 and try and take the T-54 on yourself. It's just not a good matchup for you. It's a much stronger matchup for him. Apparently your guys could use some flanking help on that side.
It's a trap!
Not sure what you're doing here.
It's a trap!
Lol. You basically went to the one place where everyone else could shoot at you, which was a little bit perplexing, since the T-54 did not have a shot on you. You know that he's reloading, so you could probably actually kill him before he even reloads, but okay, that's fine. So what you should really do is you should go and make sure that these guys don't die. Again, if you're not in a position to bully something, or if you don't feel like you are, you shouldn't just sit out someplace and hide. You should go to where your teammates are, to where you can, hey, together, let's do this. Just too much waiting. Too much waiting. And so the thing is that you waited for your two guys to die over here, and then now you're doing something. And that's what I don't like. If you're gonna do something, you should have done it while your team was still alive. Don't wait until they're dead and then do something. That's never to. And again, that's not just a self-preservation thing. It's never to your advantage for your teammates to die. If you're gonna do something anyways, do it while they're alive. Even from a self-preservation standpoint, that means that they're gonna be taking attention from the enemy. That's attention that's not on you. It's like right now, this IS-4 is engaging these guys, but you're sitting in the back. And then now everyone's dead, so now you can run as far away as you want. Now it doesn't matter. There's 2.0 on your backside.
It's a trap!
Oh, the trees.
It's a trap!
Oh, we lost the auto raid.
It's a trap!
Run away. And then the AT-7 is presumably coming through here eventually, so the AT-7 will probably be coming through on that F line. Just something to keep in the head. The WZ is, I'm sorry, the Waffle is a one-shot though, so you do have that going for you. See, now you're flanking. Now that everyone's dead, now you feel like it's free for you to move to. Now you feel like it's free for you to move wherever you want to go on the map. But you should have felt more free to do these flanking maneuvers when your team is still alive. It would have been so much easier for you, and it also potentially could have helped keep your team alive. I mean, auto aim is useful. I don't think that it's a bad use of auto aim. Just don't be overly reliant on it, especially if you have to shoot something that's like more than 100 meters away. You can basically wait until he gets on cap if you want, just spot around through the middle. It's not like he's got the speed. You basically just want to cover this lane right here, this lane right here, and nothing else should be able to get by. Just push it. Just push it.
It's a trap!
Good job. Don't drive forward. Don't drive forward. Don't drive forward. Don't drive forward. You basically drove into the only hardy lane on that map. But, okay. At least they didn't hit you. You got that going for you. All you had to do was just wait back there and then drive forward. Alright. So we don't know. I mean, for all we know, the AT-7 might be AFK. You still want to be able to look through this middle. I don't like coming through here because it's coming through an alley. I don't like coming through here because it's coming through an alley. It's easier to come through here. There's more options. But we don't know where the AT-7 is anyway. So like I said, we might be AFK for all we know. AT-7 on the left.
It's a trap!
On the left. You can ignore him. I think that's a valid play. Oh no! He's going for the charge. Don't go high. Don't go high. Oh. It's difficult for artillery to shoot down. You want to keep that in mind. The other artillery is probably on this one over here. I would actually go kill him and then come back to the AT-7. Because the artillery can kill you while you're attacking the AT-7, but the AT-7 can't kill you while you're attacking the artillery.
It's a trap!
AT-7 knows which side you're on now, right? So he's going to be facing west. Presumably. I still think that you're better off killing the artillery at this point because the AT-7 is still so far out of position that he's not going to be able to save his artillery, but the artillery can still shoot you if you attack the AT-7. There's only 4 minutes left in the game at this point. You need to make something a little bit more decisive happen. I think the best play is after you killed that M53-55, you should have gone over here and killed the... And then all you have to do, because the AT-7 can't one-shot you, all you have to do is just take a shot from the AT-7 on the way in, get to the side or rear. GG. Like, taking this long way around, I don't think is really productive. You're not going to really gain for anything. If anything, the AT-7 can get closer to where the Lorraine is at. Which is to their advantage, not yours. You always want ISOs. If you can get ISOs, get those ISOs. So now, presumably, the AT-7 will be somewhere in this area over here, and the Lorraine will be behind them. They're not going to be sitting on cap. That doesn't make much sense. And you've only got 3 minutes now. It's going to be much more difficult. You should still drive up to him and past him. It's going to be difficult to do from the side. If you were going to take that shot, you shouldn't have taken it from right there. You don't want him to know which side you're coming from. But at this point, you don't really have time to drive to the other side either, so... You've kind of made your bed here. Just shoot the Lorraine.
It's
No,
a
shoot
trap!
the Lorraine. So you want to get that Lorraine down to one shot. Lol. And unfortunately, just because of the position that you're in, there's nothing that you can do. You can potentially... I don't know that you can drive down here and get out. I actually tried it. Doesn't look like it's that great for it. But you can't really push out. I would actually just sit behind this house over on that side and see if he pushed up to you. If he closes the gap, then that's to your advantage. Like, sitting back here does not... This does not help you do anything. And running away, you're not gonna win. Running away guarantees at least a draw, or at best a draw. I guess unless the AT-7 trips and falls into the lake and drowns, but that seems like a long shot. At this point, I mean, I would say this: see if he closes the gap, because he was driving across. If he closes the gap, then try to make it to the side. If he doesn't close the gap, well, you still got to charge him. Hope that he bounces or takes a bad shot. And then given the time that's elapsed, this is the predictable play, so he's probably going to be looking this way. Or hedging his bets. I still think he's going to be over here. Oh, he's not.
It's a trap!
He said. Yeah, interestingly enough, if you drove over a little bit more this way, you actually probably could have gone to his side and tried to track him on the way in, but yeah, I don't think that was a very good position. Anyways, so there's a number of issues. Most of it was that you were too passive, just too passive. Especially if you're in a bad matchup, and I say this I see this a lot where you see somebody in a tank and they're up against a tank that's stronger than them. In this case, it was you in a T-54 lightweight up against a T-54. That's not a good matchup for you. That's a good matchup for him. So he wants that matchup and you don't. When you don't want that matchup, when you don't want the matchup that you're in, just leave. You have the ability to leave. It's not like you're in a T-95 and you've got no choice, right? You've got the ability to leave. Just leave. There's nothing stopping you. And the problem that you had for most of this game is that most of this game, when it was actually relevant, you spent stagnant. You spent doing nothing. And that was the greatest problem. It wasn't really until your entire team was dead that I felt like, okay, now he's moving. Now he's getting to people's flanks. Now he's attacking. Like, all the time that your team was alive, you didn't really help them. You just kind of sat around waiting for people to push into your areas, taking damage when I didn't really feel like it was really necessary. If you played the first half of the game like you played once everybody died, I think it would have been, it's difficult to predict, but I think you would have had a better chance to win. Your teammates would have had a better chance to be alive, doing the exact same things that you did. And so this is the issue that I have that I bring up a lot in the stream and when we replay these things, is that if you're gonna do something, right, once the guy in front of you is dead, or your team is dead, or something else happens, if you're gonna do the exact same thing once they're dead, you might as well have done it before they died, because at least if you do it before they die, you'll get some support, you'll get some somebody else for the enemy team to shoot at. If you wait until everybody else to die to do the exact same thing, I think that's where people run into problems. So you want to avoid doing that. So if you're sitting there thinking, oh man, I got to get to these guys' flanks, then you should have been thinking, oh man, I got to get to these guys' flanks. So like that waffle, you should have been thinking, oh man, I got to try to get to that guy's flank when your team was still alive, not after he was dead, not after your team was dead and the waffle was looking for you, right? Do it while the waffle is occupied by something else, right? And so I think if you're going to take those risks anyway, and you're going to take those risks, you might as well take it while your team is still alive. And that's the issue that I had, or that's the flaw that I felt that that was in most of the gameplay that we just watched. It's just like, okay, you did that. Like, you ended up engaging the T-54, but if you were going to do that, you might as well have engaged it while the KV-13 was also engaging them, because then you would have had a better chance to engage them. Same thing with the Wheezy over here. Or if you're going to run from him, just run from him and go and help somebody else. Don't run part way away and then stop. Part way away and then stop. That allowed the T-54 to get far too much free damage on you. And I really didn't feel like that was worthwhile. To me, especially since most of your team was still alive over here, what they really needed to do was just finish clearing out that area there, and then they could have gone back for the T-54. Alright, so if we look at the stats, your team didn't do badly. You did pretty well in terms of the damage, but most of that was in the late game, unfortunately. GG, though. Nice try. And you still had a chance to win if you just killed the other artillery and then went after the AT-7 rather than trying to chase down the AT-7 as well. Another note. Another programming note. Man, those were some long ones. Alright, so the next one is data links IS-6 on Erlenberg. Alrighty, so similar-ish comps. One big already. You can go either way here. Might be actually better to push the two. Well, I don't know. A lot of it depends on what they do with their medium tanks. You could go either way. If you do go west, I would push the 2 line. If you go east, you can sort of get to that D9 area and then reassess. Again, much like every other game that we talk about, you'd want to see what your team is doing, because that's going to impact how aggressive you are, where you go, and depending on what you run into, what you do, what your response to that is. So it looks like most of your team is headed east, right? You've got a couple light tanks headed west, and that's pretty much it. So you can go west, but then I wouldn't push this 2 line like normally I would push the 2 line. You don't necessarily want to sit back here in this groove that you always see people sit in. It's actually somewhat safer if you get into that area, but I don't know if I would do that given the fact that you literally only have light tanks on this side. You might actually want to just turn around and go back the other way at this point. But let's see what these guys see. This T-54 did not go someplace where he could light very easily. If you go down this 3 line, you can light these guys over here fairly easily. You're not going to get a very good shot on this 12T, so I wouldn't push up over here, because basically you're going to get lit if you push up over here. And you're going to be the bait. That T-54 lightweight is pushing him. It's not a good position for him, though. He hasn't spotted anything yet, though, and that was probably artillery. So the thing about pushing up here is that, so basically as you push up through this area, if there's somebody over here, you'll get lit. What you can do is you can go into this area right about, let's see if you go into that general area, and I'll show you when you get a little bit closer. So you can go into this general area, like right in this area, sort of by this wall over here. This basically protects you from artillery. This slope basically protects you just in case their artillery is right down that lane, which they never are, but let's just pretend. And you can also get immunity from these shots over here for the most part. But you did not get lit, so you can go either way. I don't really like the lack of support here that you have here. You have a bunch of light tanks, really isn't a whole lot of guns. But you don't know what their team has, because you're, despite the fact that you have all your light tanks over here, you don't actually have any intelligence. And the super Pershing's over there, but you're going to be relatively safe from artillery, so you're fine where you're at. Just, you want to angle your armor a little bit more towards the ice. No, you did. Never mind. Take your time, aim it all the way in. It's not a very accurate gun, but from that range you should be able to hit where you want to hit every time. And it should be like straight into that driveway. That still wasn't fully aimed. And again, it's like you're doing a little bit too much dancing. I mean, it's not entirely necessary. He actually helped you out by tracking you, because that meant that you aimed all the way. This is not a very good shot for you. I would actually use your HE here. Like, just go ahead and just hit him with HE a couple times and see if that gets him to back off. You're not going to be able to push across here, and their Roombas on this side. It's just going to make things more difficult. This just isn't a very good matchup for you, because however you push out here, somebody's going to be able to shoot you in the side or the face. Like, this is not what you want to play. Your team does not appear to be doing very well on the other side, despite the fact that they have a lot of their mid-size weight on this side. They've got, you know, 3 8s and a 7. That was a good shot. Your artillery has shots at that super Pershing as well, but he's got his own problems over there. And then where you're at right now is not already safe, just as an FYI. Driver. And this is always the problem. Like this, I would repair your driver. What you're doing right now is you're basically pushing up into an area where you've got one guy on one side and one guy on the other side, and you've got to push forward in order to shoot one of the other them. This is what I refer to as 1-2s, where only one of them really ever has to shoot you at any given time. Of course, the Roomba does not appear to be helping out the super Pershing, so that's good for you. You did fix the driver. Yeah, at this point, I would just... Well, alright, the 12-2 took care of the Roomba for you. You got saved by the light tank. Yeah, so then I would push... Okay. And I would turn around. Go back to base. Unfortunately, by now, you've lost that other side. But look, you've got a full health Comet. I mean, going through this metal is not really that super helpful. Nice low roll. Go back up through this 2 line, get over on this side over here. Your artillery is going to die. What you're hoping, well, I mean, you should still try to get this Durer down if you can. So what you're hoping is that they can get the artillery down before these guys die. Otherwise, artillery is going to kill these guys here. And if they do, what you want to do is come up through this middle area, probably. Be the safest. You do need to try to see if you can get shots on this. Like, I'm pretty sure you can shoot this guy from where you're at. Like, you don't want to be on the exact same plane as everyone else, is what I'm getting at. You're not going to have a very good shot there. You technically do have a shot through a little window from like 600 meters, but it's not a very good shot. And like, again, you don't want to be on the same plane as everyone else, because you want to be in a position where you can flank, even if it's only down here, because then at least you can shoot them as they cross the bridge. Looks like they moved their Type 61 down here, so you actually have the option potentially to counter push. You're not going to get very good shots from where you're at. And so one of the things is that whenever you're in these Russian tanks, for the most part, you don't want to, if you ever find yourself sniping, that's not a good thing. Like if you're like, oh, I gotta try to weave this shot from 500 meters through a couple of buildings, no, that ain't gonna happen. Right? You need to move someplace where you can actually use your gun rather than have hope shots. Because like right now, you could be helping these guys out down here. I mean, because you're really just hanging out. Your moral support. And I don't actually see you typing any words of encouragement to your team. And so we know the Bulldog and the Type 61 are on the south, which means only the Karen is on the north, right? So basically in all this time, and this is a lot like the that T-54 lightweight on Fjords game, it's just you're waiting around for your team to die. And so you can counter push this Karen if you want, but again, so my problem with this is that you knew that this Karen was ISO'd as soon as this M41 pulled up over here, right? And that was a good 30 seconds to a minute ago. So if you knew the Karen was ISO'd, then why didn't you push the Karen already when the KV-4 was still alive? The T-28 was dead by then, but T-28 was not in a very good position. That's not here today. I just really feel like people make it harder on themselves than it needs to be. It's like they're pulling a rope-a-dope. They're just like, check this out. Well, you had enough time there that you probably could have just aimed that. Their artillery's not going to be loaded quite yet. You don't need to get this close. Because you're basically going someplace where artillery can shoot you. Like, the closer that you are to these buildings, the safer that you are, right? And you'll still be reasonably safe from these guys. And already missed anyway, so that's good for you. They're going to be reasonably close to each other. Unfortunately, the Bulldog is not one shot. You could shoot HE at the Bulldog, but that's still risky because if it hits any space armor, you're not going to one shot him anyways. It might be worth a shot. I would just push him at this point. You don't know what's taking the. You don't know where the Type 61 is, and you're gonna have to kill one of them eventually, right? So you can do one of two things, and this is the thing: is that you know that there's basically only a limited number of scenarios that can happen here. Like, again, maybe the Type 61 has narcolepsy and he fell asleep and he's only halfway here. But unless that happens, and that seems like a pretty low probability, unless that happens, you know that the Type 61 is driving towards you. That they want to have a 2v1, not a 1v1. Like, that's what they want. So you know where the Bulldog is. You know that the Bulldog can't really get away. He could just drive circles around the house. Like, that's pretty much the limit to what he can do. But he's faster than you anyways. So if he wanted to do that, there's not really a whole lot that you can do. But if you wait, then you give them an opportunity to set up something. It's not like you have much subterfuge where you can get away and go and hide, and they're like, oh, where did he go? You know, you're where you're at. They know where you're at. There's no way that you can drop spot. If the Bulldog wants to spot you, if the T-61, Type 61 comes up the 6 or 7 line, there's no way that you can stop that. So my thinking is that if you know that you need to engage these guys, and you know that there's even the remotest possibility that they don't have the backup yet, that their backup hasn't caught up, then you might as well just push them. You know that artillery already missed. You have about a 20 to 30 second window where it's just you and a Bulldog, and somewhere out there, there's a Type 61, but who knows where somewhere out there is. If he's already into a position where he can support the Bulldog, you're boned anyways. But if he's not, if the Type 61 is out of position, artillery has already fired, and you wait, then you allow artillery to reload, and you allow the Type 61 to get into position, right? And so when you think through the potential scenarios here, the logic says, I've got a small window here, maybe I can push the Bulldog, maybe I can't. But if I don't get this Bulldog here, then eventually the Type 61 and the Bulldog are going to be in the same location, and I'm going to have to 2v1 them with the artillery. Maybe we should speed this up. Oh, they're here. You're gonna get RD'd. Oh, how can the RD not be aimed here? Is he shooting AP? What's going on? So my guess is the Type 61 was not in position, so you probably could have pushed out there and been safe. Bulldogs all. The Type's going to be coming across the bridge, so you actually want to back your ass up into right here, because the Type's going to come around on either this side or on this side. And if you're back right here, then you're at least into a position where it's going to be difficult for him to just get a shot straight into your rear. And then so what's going to happen now? You've got a reprieve because their artillery just keeps missing you. So again, you've got about a 20-second window for artillery. You know that the Type is one shot. He's going to be coming across here. You know that the Bulldogs fired like 6 or 7 shots. Right. So all you got to do is back up here and get ready for the Type and take him down next, because he's the next most critical guy. Yeah, so what I would have actually done is backed up over here and still left my facing towards this Bulldog, because the Bulldog can still kill you. And that also, you want to almost play possum. You want this Type 61 to think that you're fixated on the Bulldog. You don't want the Type 61 to know that you're looking at him. And turning your tank in the way that you did, you have to remember that because you're lit, the Bulldog can see you, he can see you. So he knows, well, if he's paying attention, all he has to do is scroll back, and he can see that you're looking at him, just like you can see that he's looking at you. And so if you're sitting over here, you want to have it a surprise when he comes around that, oh, okay, now I'm turning my turret. Oh well, nice try. Okay, so there are a number of things. So coming to this west side early, and again, what you want to do 30-60 seconds into the game is see what support you have. Your light tanks came over here. It's just basically you and a bunch of light tanks at the start. You had a bunch of guys that might have been AFK in the beginning or whatever. But most of your team went to the east, which is fine. It's not really that big of a deal. I don't think the west is that critical to win or lose. I just don't think that neither of these flanks, either the far west or neither the far west or the far east flank here are critical to the game. It's not like winning one or the other is important. You just want to be able to trade well on either or both, and you want to be able to win on one side, before you lose on the other. Again, ideally. So I thought when you came over here, I thought what you did was fine. I thought it was appropriately aggressive. I thought that you played it really well. You got a little bit lucky when you finally got up here. You got a little bit lucky when it was just you, the Super Pershing, and the Roomba, because that's a kind of a dangerous dance where you're at, because you were in an arty lane. If the Roomba was trying to actually help the Super Pershing, the Roomba could have gotten shots on you when you were shooting at the Super Pershing, and it would have been GG. And that's the problem of pushing into a flank like that. Basically, you're pushing into this sort of perpendicular place where one guy can shoot you from one side and another guy can shoot you from a flanking side, and you never want to push yourself into a flank like that, and that's why that's exceptionally dangerous. But you made it through there okay. And then probably the biggest problem in your decisions in this game came after you guys won this side, where you sent a couple tanks over this way. There's one other tank that was on the south side that ended up coming back north, and you had a few tanks on the north. But at that time, you knew that you were going to lose this northeast, and then you could just kind of sat around here for a while until both sides died. Your north side died and your south side died, and you didn't help either. And that's the biggest problem, and you don't want to play that sort of third line position, especially in a Russian heavy. There's a number of things that you could have done. You could have either gone to help the north guys, you could have gone to help the south guys, you could have even driven across the middle. Doing pretty much anything other than nothing would have been more of a help. And that wouldn't necessarily have turned the tide of the game, but that not doing anything essentially guaranteed that, or didn't guarantee it, but it made it that much more difficult for these guys to actually have a chance to pull that off. because you basically said, okay, you guys on the south, you go off and do your thing. You guys on the north, you guys do your thing. I'm gonna sit here and see what happens, and then whatever happens, then I'll deal with it. Be a little bit more proactive there. And then coming over here, so I talk about this a lot in the stream, but it's important to understand how to play defensively. And by that, a lot of times I mean, you need to understand what the biggest threat to you is in any engagement. Sometimes it's the tank that's right in front of you. Sometimes it's not. Like in this engagement right here, the Super Pershing and the Roomba, those neither of them was more important of a tank for you. They just had much better positions than you, which is what made that particular thing dangerous. But like where this Karen was at, that Karen was not going to be in a position where he could do a lot to damage you any more than if you were back here. So if you stayed back here, kind of where this Type 61 is, you would have been safe from artillery, safe from any other flanking fire and things like that. And you still would have had basically the same shots on the Karen. He basically would have had the same shots at you. But you would have been so much safer from the rest of his team. You got lucky that the artillery missed you, and that's fine. We all need that kind of luck. That's not that big of a deal. And then I think the other mistake is that, especially when you get down, when you're down in a 1v3, a 1v2, 1v4, whatever it may be, whether it's in this game or whether it's in the game with the T-54 lightweight that we just watched, I think it's you need to find ways where you can equalize the disadvantage that you're at. And if that Bulldog pushes up here and he's too aggressive, he gets here too much sooner than the Type 61, then you push that guy and you punish him for that, right? You can stay along these buildings to stay already safe. If that Type 61 doesn't get here in time to support him, then you've created a 1v1, and then the Type 61 shows up, and then you've got another 1v1. What you want to avoid is giving them an honorable fight where you're just like, all right, already just fired. Type 61 may or may not be here, but I'll wait. I'll let you get your friends, because it is. I mean, you against a Bulldog, you would bully a Bulldog. That's not very fair for the Bulldog. So it is more honorable for you to wait for the Type 61, but I don't think that that's a good strategy. I don't think that's a winning strategy. I think you take the chance that the Type 61 hasn't caught up to the Bulldog, and you just push the Bulldog. Waiting, I think, is whenever you're outmanned, I think, and in an immobile tank, a relatively immobile tank, like it would be different. Like again, if you were in that Type 50, the T-54 lightweight, where we just saw, where you can just like, oh, okay, well the Bulldog is over here, but he doesn't want to push me, but you have the mobility to get away. That's one thing. But if you're in an IS-6, you're not getting away from that Bulldog. I think you can't just like run away. So it's much easier for you to go over here. And again, you could have chased him over here, and all he had to do was just drive around the building until the Type 61 finally showed up. But he also could have just potatoed and either not poked out to see you crossing the bridge to come and get him, or not been in a go position to actually get out, and then you take him down for free. But I think you need to take that risk when you're down 1v3, or when you have odds against you and you don't know if the Type 61, right? You want ideally for them to come at you one at a time. You want to create those 1v1 situations. You don't want to let them, hey, let's get everybody over here and then we can all push together sort of thing. I think you want to definitely try to avoid that. All right, so if we look at the stats, it was a pretty good game. Your team did okay-esque. I mean, those two guys that camped in the base, I don't know if they were disconnected the whole time or not. They didn't do anything, but that'll happen. You did pretty well, though, which is good. 16 of 18. There's a lot of dead time in there. I really felt like you could have had more shots than that, but that's not bad. GG. Nice try.